Cool. What do we think?
I really like it.
It's
Me
different.
too.
I like it, yeah.
And like, I want to say that it's nerdy, but like it's a different kind of nerdy.
It's
And
gamer
not to
nerdy.
say that I love chemistry. So the fact that the other book it was like nerdy, but it just wasn't like it was awkward. And this one I think just flows better and naturally. And maybe it's because they're younger. I don't know.
I think the relationships are very unique, and I think that makes them more interesting. It's not your typical like, okay, here's girl meets a boy, or not drama yet, but I like that. It's a different sort of relationship that we haven't really yet seen. I also like the gaming stuff because my sister's a gamer, so I'm like, oh, I kind of feel like from what little she has told me, I'll be able to understand some of it.
It kind of
I like
reminds me
too
of the
that-
Social Network a little bit, or the same type of vibe.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not going to go as bad as that one did.
No, yeah,
I like that there's less characters. Like, I mean, there's still like several characters, but the way the book's flowing, like, I'm not getting confused, who they're talking about.
Yeah, good point. This one so far is more chronological, I think, right? Because it starts off when the two main characters meet, and it's like they're kind of like sounds like preteens or teenagers, and then now they're young adults.
Although it is going back into like going in the future. It's kind of like very, I like that because it's like giving us little hints of where it's going, or like how they're going to grow,
Mhm.
but like not in a way that's distracting.
Oh, you're right, because it has like the interviews, right? I forgot the part.
Mhm.
Yeah, like they gave a hint. They're like, the girl was like, "Oh, we're not," or I wanted to call him, but we weren't talking.
Something
at
else
the
is gonna
time."
happen.
Mhm. Which is interesting because I feel like it's embedded, not like super defined where like this is the, the present and this is like the future. But for some reason it's not as confusing as Julie mentioned. Like other books, like I feel like they define it, but you're still kind of like, wait, what's going on? And I feel like the flow of this one is nice and enjoyable, that you're not lost.
Yeah.
And you can tell that we're getting hints from the future. And you're like, oh, wait, what? So I like it.
I'm enjoying how they're describing the way they're creating the games too, and like the classes you must take if you want to become like a game designer. I've never thought about it before, but I know that coding stuff is very difficult.
Yeah,
Takes
like
forever.
I don't even play games. Like I've never been a gamer. I didn't grow up with having that in my house. So I literally know nothing about any of that, but I'm still finding it interesting and I'm following it.
Mhm.
So I think that's a big deal because this could be like very, very like technical, or I don't know, like, but I feel like the way that she's describing stuff makes it like accessible, but also probably like really accurate. I
agree.
don't know.
Mm-hmm.
At least I guess the references so far when they're going to be talking about like stuff that not everyone knows. Like everyone knows, like I don't know, what's like Donkey Kong, but like
Yeah.
I don't know if
Oregon
they're gonna
Trail.
talk about
Nintendo.
stuff
Yeah.
from-
What about
Yeah, everyone knows
Oregon
Oregon Trail.
Trail? Like how she had to explain it to him.
I got
That was
excited
the most
when I
fun
knew
game in the
Frogger.
computer lab.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Zelda. I used to play Zelda.
Yeah, I was
But-
thinking of Paula because Paula, do you
Mhm.
still live in Cape Town or you used
Oh
to?
yeah, I was gonna say
Mhm.
I like know it's like I did live in Cape Town for the first like 5 years that I lived here, so it's like hitting home, like Jewish character, K-Town. I'm like, oh, there's lots of
Yeah.
stuff in this book.
Yeah, I was like, wow. Like, and that stuff, like, we didn't even know, right? We didn't know, like, the Jewish stuff. So, yeah, I was thinking of you.
Like the grandma character is not my grandma at all, but my grandma went through that too. So it's like, ooh,
Yeah, it's interesting. It just adds, like, more, makes them more interesting, like, more dynamic, you know?
It's nice when there's relatable characters. Yeah.
I also think that Holocaust game was genius.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm,
oh my God, I just thought that was so like thoughtful. I don't know.
It was cool. I never had thought of a game being used to show like social commentary like that, but it was very clever.
Yeah, but that relationship with that teacher sounds pretty toxic.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
And then towards the
Yeah.
end where he comes back and she's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I won't need your room anymore, Marks. It's fine. I'll stay with Dove. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
about the wife?
Ugh,
What
was
about
like,
the wife? And
I
what about the
know.
depression she fell into? But I was wondering because they used part of his like something he made for the game. I was just wondering like how much she really actually wanted to do that, or did she think like, okay, I kind of like I'm obligated because we're using some of his creations for our game. So I was all mixed up with that. I don't know. I don't know what she's feeling or thinking.
I feel like it's an example of how they have such a close friendship in terms of their creativity and in terms of their like interests, but they don't actually talk about what's going on internally. Like she never said all the stuff that happened with Dove. Like he has no idea. So he's like, oh yeah, should be fine. Like they're not interested in that part of each other's lives and they don't talk about it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like creating problems that none of them are really aware of.
Yeah. I was thinking like if she regrets getting with Dove again in the future, she might think like, okay, this game wasn't worth it because it caused this, angst in her personal life.
Which I feel like you could kind of get towards the end where she was saying, oh, he became like the producer or something, and now he's attached to my how does she
Career.
describe it? Yeah, like he's forever attached to my success in a way. And I'm like, oh, so I don't know. I listened to most of it this time around, and I felt like the tone that the reader was um describing that part, I felt like it was more like a regret, but it is what it is kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also read before starting the book that a lot of people were like, this is not a love story, this is not a love story. But tell me why at the beginning. I'm like, oh my God, how cute. They're gonna like do a game together and do this and that. But I think in the end, I kind of like that it's not gonna be that it's just gonna be like, yeah, clearly he had feelings for her. But it's more like they never, or it seems like they're not gonna do much
More
about it.
It's more
Yeah.
platonic, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think Sam will find love though, or with anyone?
Hmm.
Seems asexual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe once they become famous, that will change.
And then what about like Marks? Marks and what's the girl name? Sadie.
Mm.
I think that's going to keep coming up.
Could
Mhm.
be, yeah. Especially with proximity.
I feel like the part where she's like, oh, that she can't stand him, you know how it becomes like what is it called? That trope.
Enemies
Opposites
to
attract.
lovers.
Like the enemies to lovers thing. But I
Mhm.
don't think it'll be like a major part. Like maybe in the end they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, and they ended up together or something. Like I don't think it's gonna be
A big
romance,
part.
Like you'll be like, oh my God, I wish they do. It's more like,
Mhm.
I feel like the characters are really likable without being like, with like still being like realistic people that like you would
Mhm.
meet.
With flaws, yeah.
Mhm. They're very interesting. I feel like I can picture them in my head.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a good job.
I looked up the author and she's like mixed Korean and white. I don't know. So
Oh.
I think she's a few different things, but
I do like that the whole like race and being like um mixed race and all that stuff. The part where he said being half of this and half of that does not make me whole. Like that, I feel like that was a theme I didn't see coming, which I kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're just like, oh wait, hold on, this isn't just about a video game. Like they're actually going into like the deeper stuff, but it's not forced. It's just like naturally happening, you know?
It's there's some themes that we haven't touched upon really that much in book club so far.
Mm-hmm. Or if we do, it's like obvious from the start. There's been a few books where the themes are like,
I guess like Vanishing Half, right?
yeah, yeah.
But this one's more subtle for sure.
Mhm.
I forgot about Vanishing Half because it was so, like one of the first ones.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones.
my friend was telling me how good that book was.
It was
It's
But
really
very good.
I wasn't in the club yet.
Yeah,
It was like your
think that
second or
was,
third
like,
one, I think.
our second book, and
Mhm.
it was just so good. It was like so many themes, and there was like basically no negativity, and not because we started like it was one of our first ones, but I feel like it was just such a good book and kind of nice.
Mhm.
I started so strong.
She's also reading this book. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh,
Like the timing. She's like, I'm reading this book. I really like it. I can't stop. I was like, oh, I just started and it was the same book.
Oh, that's funny.
I wonder, like, if Max's, or what's his name, Sam's dad is gonna come and like cause
Mm.
problems, or
Mm.
I don't know, want money, or like want fame, like that's my son.
Mm. I could see that happening.
Yeah, I was like, because I don't know. He touched on that so briefly, but I'm like, I feel like that's gonna come back. And like his mom, he doesn't talk about his mom anymore, so I feel like something happened to her.
yeah. In the
Did they say
beginning,
she died, or am I just thinking that she did?
I don't know.
Because he said the grandparents raised him, right?
Yeah. I think there was a tiny section where she talked about her mom. I mean, his mom. Something about dating George. I don't even know who George is. That's not his dad, right? Is
Oh,
it?
the
That's
stepdad,
his
right?
dad. That's his
Or his
dad.
dad.
It is
His
his
real dad.
dad.
Mhm.
Oh.
His mom was like a model or something, right? And like they
An actress.
an actress. Thank you. And then the dad told him like, "Oh, I asked your mom to stay, but she didn't. But we don't know if it's true or not."
Yeah, that might be the only part where I was like, wait, what's going on? But I was also cycling while I was listening to that part. Um, but he said he wanted to take him to Malibu, right?
Yeah, I think he said he had a place.
So maybe he doesn't need money?
Yeah, I think that the guy is rich because he's an agent
Yeah.
and he dates actresses and stuff. but I still think he might want to like be like, oh, let me represent you, or like let
Mhm.
me make deals for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me make business with you.
Let me give you advice. Like now he cares.
Yes.
It even goes on like a lot of interesting tangents, like how it went on a whole tangent about cultural appropriation,
Mhm.
Yes.
but it didn't feel like it was like, it still felt like the book knew what it, or it didn't feel like a tangent, I guess.
Mhm.
And then it segues into that interview. Like it's just like really interesting how she structured it.
It's nicely crafted and intertwined that it just like
I was
even
thinking,
when he talked about like the maze and then they're like, oh, there was a maze up on her wall of LA. And I was like, okay, no biggie, right? And then the next section is like, oh, he created that. And I was like, oh, that is so cool. Like it's not like you're waiting for it. It's like timed appropriately to get the right details.
mm,
Mm.
Yeah.
I think it's the details for me that are making the story good. It's not very like, I'm just gonna mention this and just continue with the story. It's like really thought out.
I was thinking her timing of like going back and forth in the future and the past is good. It's not confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like you were saying, the details, like when, what's her name? Hannah sent the email that was like, this is disgusting. And
Oh,
like,
yeah.
why is it so disgusting to her? And just like how she makes it intriguing.
Yeah, the author didn't say right away what was going on, but like didn't drag it out too much either.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was just like, it's a game that's a fact where you're making stuff in a factory. How can that be so upsetting?
I think because, yeah, that girl, like, was, I think the game called her a Nazi.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining that. She's like, what? No. I don't know. She sounds like I know she was like an MIT or whatever, right?
Yeah.
She was already at MIT, but she just sounds like I don't know, like the annoying girl that I don't want to say that doesn't know much or is like,
Oblivious.
yeah. But she just seems like I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. But I can imagine some of my classmates in this character and or my previous classmates, and I'm just like, ugh, jeez. But yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
She sees things at face value
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you all think about the beginning, how they met? I thought that was really interesting. With like how she was like at first, okay, let me hang out with this kid. And it was like she was escaping from her sister, but then she was racking up those volunteer hours.
Yeah. That
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. She was saying, like, she really likes getting, like, praise and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was just doing all this hours because they were like, good job, good job.
mhm.
And then I feel like her relationship with Dove, he just gives her a lot of praise also. So I think that's like what keeps her coming back to.
That's true.
Yeah.
She's like I feel like maybe before she had to overcompensate because her sister was sick, and now like she's still looking for all those affirmations, even though it wasn't her fault.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't, like, I knew about that, but now that I see it, I was like, wow, that makes sense. That makes sense why she would easily just go back to him. And how she described that, I think he was the one who really says, you did amazing. And she's like, oh yeah, thanks, thank you. I don't know, I just imagine her, oh my God, puppy,
Yeah.
even though she's
Well,
older.
it's also like that inappropriate power dynamic with like a teacher and a student where you start thinking that like they represent like the truth and what is right, and like they're
Mhm.
gonna they you know figure in her life that like is going to
Like an
teach her
idol.
and help her,
Yeah.
and that's gonna that's kind of solidified in that way because of the power dynamic. And I think that he's able to kind of not, I don't know if the right word is manipulate, but like control her in that way because he has that power over her.
I agree. I'm trying to think of the other word because it's not like hardcore manipulation, but it's definitely like subtle. I feel like there's another word for it. Like persuade, maybe? I don't know.
He can influence her.
There you go.
The only word I kept thinking of was grooming, and I was like, I know it's not that one. But it sounds like it.
It kind of reminded me of My Dark Vanessa too. When we
Yeah,
watched that one.
that's the whole thing I kept thinking about when she was like, oh yeah, we started dating, and I was like, whoa, no. And then when they mentioned the wife, and I'm like, and she went off for like 10 months. I'm like, no. Mm-mm. You laugh because I hated that.
Yeah.
It just is. Ugh.
It was also really interesting to see like Sam and Marx's opinion of him versus like how she was describing him like in the scenes where we were with her.
Mhm.
Like they're just like, this guy's like cheesy and like overbearing and weird, but like she is so like obsessed with him. It's like very interesting.
Or like how Mark
Like,
was
did
able
they say
to.
he looked like Chris Cornell or Chris Angel? I don't remember.
Let's see.
I don't know, Chris
Like the lead singer of a band.
hmm
Who's Chris Angel?
He's like a a magician, and he's all like tatted and pierced, and he looks ridiculous. Look him up.
Chris Angel Mind Freak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't he in Vegas?
I was gonna say that. I was
Yeah,
like, it's Vegas, right? I don't know. Did
Yeah, I
they
think it was Chris Cornell they were talking about,
yeah.
the musician.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely going to be. I'm just curious, like, what conflict is going to happen
Chris
and with
Angel
who.
looks.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Chris
no.
Angel looks like that. Like he's very like so
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Antichrist.
Does anyone think like Sam and Marx might have a falling out too, which would be kind of ironic given that the book so far has described Marx as really being there for Sam and helping take care of him like in a lot of different ways.
I can totally see that because the book was saying that like Sam doesn't even fully like understand and realize and acknowledge everything Marx does. So
Yeah.
I have a feeling like if they reach a disagreement, maybe he won't be as understanding of where Marx is coming from because he's not a designer and he's not a developer. And I don't know. I could see them having some conflict.
Was that Sam or was that Sadie who was making the comments of like he's not a designer?
I think it was Sadie.
Sadie, huh?
She was questioning like why he was brought in, but he actually was being a pretty good producer, it sounded like.
Yeah, because she was also like, I wish I would have named it that, or I wish I would have come up with this. But I feel like he was a big contributor to the game.
For sure.
And even I think what they were saying, oh, he organized this, and without him, I feel like without his organization, we wouldn't have gone this far or stuff like that. And I'm just like, wow. So I could see the falling out. Just the fact that they're like, oh yeah, he's doing so great. He's actually contributing. He's, even though they don't want him as a designer because he's not really, but
Yeah. That also makes me wonder because Dove ended up being like some sort of producer or something too, right? So I wonder maybe Dove will try to like overstep, like, oh, I think it should be like this. And then maybe the two guys will be like, no. And then Sadie will be put in the middle, maybe. That could also cause conflict.
or what if they don't even include Marks because he's not really a designer, and then they include Dove instead?
Yeah, that could be it too. Mm-hmm.
They don't give credit. Oh,
Guts to give credit.
Yeah, it seems like they don't fully appreciate what he's bringing to the table, which
yeah.
seems like a lot. It's just not the, the creative side of it. It's the organizational, it's the business side of it.
The
Which every
management
creative
of
stream
it
needs to.
all.
If you want to do it for money, at least.
But even like he's contributing the name, he's even actually now that I think about it, like he's contributing a bunch of the creative influences by like
Quite a
all the
bit.
Japanese stuff that he's sharing with them, and he's
Mhm.
demoing it. Like really, he's doing
Yeah.
a lot. He seems to have had an influence on the game as well in a big way. It's just that I don't know, they probably wouldn't really acknowledge it as much.
For
But
not
he's
being
testing it, yeah.
Yeah, for not being the creator, I feel like it is a lot like revolving a lot about around him.
Mm-hmm.
Which if we hadn't gotten the whole story of who was doing this or who was doing that, I feel like we could say he was the one with the idea and he was the one who was telling everyone else what to do. Like the
Yeah.
boss. But obviously that's not true.
And he didn't do a play, like that was like his passion, and he didn't, it was the one time where he didn't do the play because he was helping them. So
That's a big sacrifice for him, yeah.
He also contributed money, right?
mhm.
I think so, yeah. He made an LLC and everything, right?
That's a lot.
So they can do like everything they box. Computer parts are so expensive, way expensive. And so then everything that they purchase right now for the creation of the game would be tax deductible, which is really big, I think.
Mhm.
Oh yeah. And that reminds me, it's so funny, like, because this is in 1997, right?
I think it's 95.
Yeah, it's just like so crazy. Like, when did you guys get your first computer? Because
Late 90s, and it was a shared family computer.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was gonna
yeah.
say
Something
that.
similar, yeah.
Yeah, same, but like, and then yeah, we totally went to the computer lab and like played Oregon Trail. And
I think after 2001, I had like my first exposure to computers because I remember going to the computer lab at elementary school. So it was like 2000 or 2001.
That's
yeah,
wild. I remember
Then I got my own
Yes.
computer and I started just downloading so many things from LimeWire.
I know.
That's so funny, LimeWire. Oh man.
So much
Now that I
music.
think about it, it's kind of like Spotify. The same. Well, Spotify is a little darker green, but it's interesting that they're both like greenish.
That's
Right?
funny.
Mhm.
Does green represent music? I don't know. That was fun.
Maybe they were inspired.
That was fun.
Yeah, I
And
miss
the
CDs.
technology must have been so like basic back then, but we see how much work went into it even then.
Mm-hmm.
That reminds me the little note when Sadie was trying to apologize, where it was like enter this, X this, program this. I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, I can imagine the code just on the computer, and I was like, that's so cool.
But yeah, that was creative. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I liked it.
It's very like thoughtful.
It's so hard to do that stuff. So people who can do it, I feel like it's a different talent for sure.
Yeah, it's just it goes all into the details, which I kind of like. It could have been a basic note, but no, it's like she went ahead and did this whole thing, and I'm like, wow, so sweet.
Just also seems very like believable. It almost seems like a nonfiction in a way, like that they made this because they just feel very believable to me as like as very, I don't, again, I don't know, but it just seems like this is something that would have really happened, and they seem credible as like people that would have created something that would have like took off like that and made them, you know, because
Yeah.
sometimes I don't know, in these books, like they don't, well, not these books, but in books when they're talking about like someone that like was a creative genius or someone that like did this big thing, like they don't show you what it is because maybe they, I don't know, it's hard to come up with something that's impressive or that seems legitimate, but I feel like in this book they're going into the creative process and it just seems really realistic.
It kind of reminds me, even though this is a much different creative thing, like Daisy Jones and the Six, how it talked about the music making in so much detail. And it's also like you're learning as well as, you know, going through the story, which I do find appealing for sure.
The interview portion reminded me of the Daisy Jones and the Six, because I feel like the first book that I read, maybe I've read previous ones, but Daisy Jones, the fact that they did that whole little interview thing, and now it's in this one too, I'm like, wait a second, like it's I kind of like that. It makes it seem like it's real. It makes me kind of question, like, obviously some of these names I recognize, but are they going to create like the video game in real life? Is it going to be an actual thing, or it's just going to be, you know, fictional and stuff like that?
I think too, like the era that it's written in really speaks to us compared to like if it was someone like Margenzi and they were reading this, they'd be like, what is this?
You're right.
I think that's also like makes it really relatable for us.
That's true. Unless they're like really into gaming, then maybe they'd be interested.
Yeah, then it'd be like a vintage game.
Yeah, they're like, ooh, nice history. I think it's also interesting that I feel like every book we read kind of goes with what's happening in the world. Like the fact that the Mario movie came out and that's a video game, and then we have this. It's just kind of like, what? Or that The Last of Us is also a video game and it's a show now. And not to say that everything right now is video games, but it's kind of interesting.
It's like a whole culture, yeah. And I think
Yeah.
gaming has gotten so much bigger with better graphics and a lot more games and accessibility, like better internet and everything. And you know, like my sister plays a lot of games online, so she has like gaming friends that she's never met in real life, but they like talk forever. And I'm like, well, at first I was like, this is weird, but now I'm like, okay, I get it more now. Because at first I was like, my sister's talking to strangers on the internet. This is like super sketch. But then she was like, oh yeah, I've been gaming with this person for like this many years, but we've never met. And I'm like, whoa.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I have a friend
Yeah.
who has friends on Discord,
Mm.
and he's already been once. He like flew to Europe to like hang out and meet them. And they've been friends for like years on Discord. And actually next month or this month, his work is doing like a voluntary leave of absence. So he can take a month off and get paid like a third of what he makes. And so he's going to Europe to see them again.
Nice.
So it's very interesting.
I mean, yeah, my dad liked to play video games actually, now that I think about it. He would play like those little army games and some zombie games. My sister and we would play like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, all the Mario games, Mario Kart. We had a PlayStation, I think, since I was like 7 or 6. So, but then my sister kept up with it and I didn't. I like to, but I got too competitive. No,
I
I'd probably be a rager.
yeah, I feel like if I had a brother and they were super into video games, I think my grades would have been down like super bad, and I wouldn't be where I was because I feel like I could have been a gamer. I just never got like
It's a distractor, yeah, for sure. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's really good, but it takes
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of time when you do that.
Yeah, my dad, not my parents, my dad specifically bought us like an Xbox, and I remember I learned football on there because I was playing football and I was staying up late at night. Oh my gosh. But then I stopped it. Definitely an addiction. Or could be an addiction.
Rico didn't know that I used to play games when I was little, and he thinks he's a gamer too, where he built his own gaming computer as well. And we went to like this little old arcade where I used to live. And I really like the game Galaga, the one with the little spaceships and the things that you shoot down. And it was one of those where you can set one person on one side and play like with a computer, or sit like this, and then 2 people play against each other. So he sat down and started playing, and he was so surprised to be.
He's like, you beat me? What?
Yeah, his reaction was very shocked. It was not the most flattering thing, but I was like,
You
I've been
should be
playing this
like,
game
why are
since I
you
was-
shocked? Huh?
Yeah, I know. I put him on blast for it. I mean, because they require good hand-eye coordination, and so I think I'm good.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm really, really bad at video games. 'Cause, like, I'm not even exaggerating. I am awful. Like Mario Kart. Oh, I just fall. I just fall off the side. Like, I literally can't. I'm so bad. And that's probably also why I've never been that interested, because I just like I don't have good eye-hand coordination at all. I'm not skilled in that, and so that's probably why also I never like sought it out, even though I didn't grow up with them.
Yeah.
My brothers were big gamers,
Hmm.
and they like I would be interested in playing, but they would never, and they would want me to play with them, but then I would go in and play with them, and they would just be like playing for an hour, and they kept saying, "Oh, I'll let you go next," and they just like wouldn't- they would
Yeah,
push.
you know.
And then my boyfriend is also a big gamer, and he works for a gaming company,
Mm.
so it's very interesting to read a book based on the games. I can't escape the game.
They just follow you everywhere. I guess you gotta play.
Mhm. But during the pandemic, when it started, I bought a Switch
Mm-hmm.
so I could play Animal Crossing, and that is a good game because you don't need any hand-eye or coordination. You're not killing anybody. It's peaceful.
Mhm. Well, there's all different types of games. That's what I was saying with my sister. But funny story about when I was little with my sister. So I'm very competitive. I'm a better loser now, but I used to be a really poor loser when I was little. And so if I played with my sister and I lost a couple times, like I'd be like, oh, I wouldn't like be like, oh no, like, you know, but I said, all right, I'm done for the day. And I just stop. And so my sister like would make sure she like let me win every so often. I would keep playing with her. I don't remember what game, but she told me that when we were like teenagers or young adults, and I'm like, really? I can't believe it.
I think it's a good sign that even if some of us are more involved than others, but we're all like, no one's feeling like bored or confused.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not too, because it could be like historical and stuff, but not really. And it's not too technical. It's, I don't know, I feel like it's the right balance of everything, which I think contributes to a good book in general.
Agree. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to like say, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing like Daisy Jones, but I think I can see why people would be like, oh, it's the book of the year. And that's just the first section. We'll see. The second section. So you read the rest of the chapter 5 of influences, and then you stop at. Oh, that's weird. I think it's part 4. It's called Both Sides, and you read chapter 4B. Don't read 5A.
Wait, that's confusing.
I know. It's
Say it again slower.
There was like 1A, 2A, and I was like, what? So finish influences.
Okay. And that's one section of the book.
Finish
Okay.
Unfair Games also.
Yeah. Then you get to Both Sides. This is the like the bigger section is Both Sides.
Okay.
And then you're gonna stop in that, I guess I can call it a unit. Stop at part 4B. Like that should be the last thing you read, 4B.
Okay. Thank
Got
you.
it.
Don't read 5A.
Not 5A. Thank
You
you.
sound
Yeah,
like apartments.
It's so interesting. The chapters just on this section are really short, but for the other ones, they're like a lot more normal. But
Yeah,
just for both sides, they're really short.
yeah, like 3A to 3B. Why not just make it 3?
Mm.
I wonder why they broke it up that way. Yeah.
Like what's the significance of dividing it that way? I guess we'll see.
It makes me think of like a record or CD, like when there's like side A, side B. Maybe it's that, like with the little cartridges from before, right? But did those also have side A, side B?
Or cassettes.
Or player A, player B, or the remote controls, button A, button B. I don't know.
Well, they're saying both sides. So I guess maybe it is like A side, B side.
Oh, because they put them on CDs before, right? Didn't Sam say like he took some of Sadie's games on discs? That must be what it was. And they would be on discs if they're designing for PC.
That's true.
That must be what it is.
Oh, how fun. I remember when we had to store stuff in CDs, floppy
Hmm.
disks.
My students haven't even seen the movie Ratatouille, so
Oh my God. It's on Disney Plus.
I know, but that's not their era, you know. And it's like
Yeah.
my favorite Disney movie.
They're like, oh,
And
boring.
I'm like, what? They're like, that's my favorite movie. And I'm just
That's
like,
an old movie. Oh my gosh.
I guess it
That's-
is now.
I think that's crazy though, because I remember growing up and my parents were showing me like, Sleeping Beauty and
Yeah.
Snow White. And
Yeah.
like, those were before.
Yeah.
Like, come
Was
on,
it Disney
parents,
Plus?
get your kids caught up.
Yeah. I should take a poll. I can put it on Google Classroom.
When did Ratatouille come out?
Like
I feel like
2011,
it's new,
2013.
isn't it? Like not
came
that
out
new, but
Like about 10 years ago, probably.
I guess it's new in my brain because it's not like your regular cartoon.
It's a Pixar one, yeah. I think it's Pixar. I'm not sure.
It's Pixar.
Or regular
Back
story.
when their Pixar Renaissance, when they had like Ratatouille, Up, Wall-E, they were like on a hot streak.
All those
Yeah,
really good
yeah.
ones.
Yeah. Of course, sleeping. Damn. I don't know if you heard her breathing. She's like, I'm like, all you did today was sleep. And she's like so exhausted. The life of a dog.
She's retired. These are her retired years.
I guess. Okay, well, I'll see you all in a week. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a good night.
Take care,
Buenas
everyone.
noches.
Have a good
Oh,
week.
play some games and let me know if they're good. Just kidding.
I'll ask my sister what game she plays.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.